Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys joining me from the very steamy tackle room today. It's 100 degrees outside and it's about 99 degrees here in the tackle room, so if I start sweating you'll know what the deal is here. But anyway guys, I want to go into fine-tooth detail today in how to rig. I'm talking about down to the very tiniest small detail about how to correctly rig a shaky head to get the maximum action out of it, to get the most bites, and to land the most bites that when you do get it. Because I see a lot of people fishing a shaky head wrong, and you got to have the right head, you got to put it on right, and then also I'm going to share a few tips and videos, or excuse me, tips and advice just on generally fishing one and gear and tackle and that type of stuff. So it's going to be a really good comprehensive video here on shaky head fishing. Also guys, before we get started, quick invitation. I'd just like to invite everybody to please swing by fishthemoment.com and check out my fall Fish the Moment breakdowns that I built for Fish the Moment. Great resources, guys. If you guys plan on going fishing this fall, this is going to be a good resource to get some really good spots to go to and some good lake information on your favorite lake or a lake you've never been to before. So I'll have my lake map breakdown link in the description of the video. Really appreciate that. Okay guys, let's get into this here. I'm gonna show you in detail how to rig it, and then we're gonna get into a little bit more stuff. But first of all, before we get into this, I want to show you the shaky head, the shaky head itself that you guys need to buy. I have tried about every shaky head on the market, literally, and this is the one right here that is the best. This is the Gamakatsu tricky head, and the reason it's the best is everything about it. It's like, number one, it's got an O'Shaughnessy bend here. The bend in there is like, this is a superior bend as far as hooking the fish, needle point hook. It's got a really cool 10 keeper, and this keeper here, the way it's positioned about 1/8 of an inch below the head, is critical in getting everything to set up right. But this 10 keeper locks it in. You got a nice conical head here that comes through the rocks and weeds good, and you've got a turned eye on the shaky head here that really adds up to better hook sets. It actually hooks the fish better than a straight turned eye. And then the diameter of the hook is absolutely perfect for shaky head fishing. I'll put this in my tackle warehouse link if you guys want to get one there. That's called the Gamakatsu tricky head, link in the description here. So this is the head we use. And then for the demonstration purposes, guys, I got a Zoom trick worm. For my shaky head fishing, I use a trick worm probably about 75% of the time. And the other 25% of the time, I'll use like a soft plastic stick bait or maybe a 4-inch version of this, but this 6-inch trick worm by Zoom is my favorite. Okay, the first thing you want to do here to get it to set right is you want to see the segment of the worm there. There's segments on the trick worm here. What you want to do is you want to bite off that first segment here, or cut it or whatever. I mean, just take that first segment off of there, and that creates a flat surface. And this flat surface right here is going to allow the worm to seat against the head of the jig head a lot better. And then the next thing you do is you want to come through the bottom here, and you only want to come through about 1/8 of an inch, about that much. You see how far that is? And you come through the bottom because you want this flat bottom to be on the bottom of the lake when you're working the shaky head. So always come through the bottom, come through, reverse it around, and then once you reverse it around, work it up to where the keeper there has locked the plastic in. And sometimes what you need to do is just push down on it a little bit with your finger here, and it's going to lock that plastic into place. And this is really critical as far as, you know, not having the worm come off when you're throwing it, or if you have a fish and the fish jumps, the fish isn't going to throw the worm off. It locks it into place there. It's going to save you a lot of worms, and it's going to save you, a lot of fish here. Okay, the next thing you do not want to do, guys, is just don't come through and bury the worm straight back in the middle like that. Because when you do this, you've got the hook in the worm, and it basically acts like it's completely weedless, and you're going to lose a lot of fish because most of the time you're fishing this on a spinning rod with lighter line. You know how much pressure, if you make a long cast with a shaky head, do you know how much pressure you have to put and how much force to drive that hook point through that plastic? So you never want to do that. The way you want to rig it is bunch the worm up just a little bit, and you want to come all the way through the worm like that. And then once you get it all the way through, make a channel there, like run it back and forth, to open it up a little bit there where it's not tight. I want it pretty loose there. And then what I do is if it's not real snaggy, say I'm fishing points or just down bakes that don't have a lot of brush or something, I always want to rig it where that point, see that point is completely out of the worm. If you can get by with it, rigging it like this, your hookups are going to go through the roof. This is how I want to fish it if I possibly can. Now, if it's too snaggy, say for example, I'm fishing riprap or I'm fishing there's some brush or weeds or something, I'm just going to back it up a little bit, and I'm going to barely put the point back in the worm here. So you can see there, it's just barely in the worm. It's like one segment there. And that's going to keep it completely weedless. I mean, it's still pretty easy to set the hook with it because it's going to break away like that, but that keeps it weedless. And when that fish bites, it's just going to break away from it like that. So that's the way you want to rig it with that. Good, nice straight setup there. Another thing with the shaky head, guys, is when you got the shaky head, when you rig it up, make sure that the plastic worm that you use on your shaky head is completely straight. See, like this one here, this one is crooked. It took a set from being it's been sitting in my box at a bad angle, so it's crooked. It makes a huge difference on having your worm completely straight. So make sure that whatever worm you're using, it hangs completely straight. You're definitely gonna get more bites with that. And sometimes, guys, I'll rough the worm up a little bit, make it a little bit softer, but that's the setup with it. Okay, the next thing with it is the equipment that you want to throw and the pound test line and everything. I have found for the most part that I like a 8-pound test line on a shaky head. That's just my favorite pound test. And also, guys, on the head here, I only use 2 different sizes. I use a 16th ounce and an 8th ounce. I prefer the 16th. It's a little bit windy, or if I'm fishing a little deeper, I'll go to an 8th. But those are the 2 sizes that if you want to use that Tackle Warehouse link to get you a couple packs, get the 16th and the 8th both. Okay, but 8-pound test is what I use most of the time. If I'm fishing deeper and it's really clear and there's not much cover, I may go down to 6, especially if I'm on a 4-inch worm. But the 8-pound test is going to be my go-to most of the time. And if I'm fishing around some heavier cover, say for example, I'm skipping that worm up underneath docks or something where there's something to get caught up on, I'll go to 10-pound test, Seaguar and Vizex. Seaguar and Vizex, straight fluorocarbon on all of it. And then on my rods, there's 2 different rods I use. I use a 6'11" Megabass Addermine and a 7-foot Megabass Shaky Head Special. Both of them work pretty good with that, but just any rod between 6'11" to 7 foot is gonna be good. Okay, another thing, guys, you got a rod over here. Setting the hook on a shaky head is critical because if you don't set the hook right, even if you have it rigged right, you're gonna lose a lot of fish. There's something about pulling that jig head through the fish's mouth and having a lighter line that you lose a lot of fish on a shaky head, especially if they're in deeper water. But what you want to do, guys, is this is how you want to set the hook. Make your cast out there. The shaky head goes to the bottom. You're working the shaky head like this. Most of the time when you're shaking it, I'm shaking it in one spot. Look at my rod tip there, shaking it like that, pulling it a little bit, shaking it in one spot like that. I'm not reeling it at the same time. I'm shaking it and then pulling it, take up the slack, shake it some more. Let's say I'm working it, I got a strike. I know there's a fish on there. Don't get in a big hurry. You don't have to set it right off the bat. Let the fish swim for 3 or 4 feet with it. Like watch the line, and then as that fish is swimming, as that line is swimming away, get the line tight, and then just pull back and start reeling like that. Don't set the hook like that. You don't have to set the hook. Just pull back and reel at the same time. And what that's gonna do, that's gonna continually bury that hook in the fish's mouth. If you try to set the hook hard a lot of times, sometimes that fish is clamped down so hard on it that you won't even get anything in there. You'll set the hook and you start reeling and the fish opens its mouth and then they spit it out. Or sometimes if the hook is positioned like towards the front of their mouth, on a bass, you've got skin right here, like a thin membrane. If you set that hook real hard, you'll rip that membrane there. So reeling and pulling into it is going to add up to a lot more better hook sets and a lot better, your ratio is gonna go way up. So, guys, that's just a few shaky head tips. If you institute some of those I talked about, you'll have some really good experiences with it. Shaky head is, my opinion, probably the top 3 bass lures of all time. So hope it helps you guys out. We'll talk later.